and then use it more either for reading or for career, career interests, research,
Oh, sure.
skill.
Okay.
We're trying to get that K-12, and that might be a good Monday mornings to come in and do some experimenting on what their interests are. Or have them do interest inventories and what does this, what does a policeman do? What do you, what?
Okay.
I just edited it all to be on the first slide, so you can just put it in presentation mode on the first slide.
Edit that everything.
So you can,
Oh.
you guys, yes.
I think I already opened it.
That's okay. I can
Hudson's
still, I can
usually
work on it
good
while you
for
have.
35 to 40 minutes. So so I've seen Jason shooting around while we're in the.
Yeah, and
And I've told him and Benny, like, hey,
all
you
those
guys, we're gonna be shooting around in the morning, and I know you guys have things that you try to present too. It's like, but if we could do both, that would be awesome, because we can get you guys in, start the lift, and then shoot around.
There you go, and then they can just see all the
Okay.
pictures.
We get all parts.
What it looks like.
What I've suggested it to them.
I'll let you
Both of
know,
them
now
are-
that I know you're doing it in the right after school, I'll send
And
this back to
it's
Jason,
not-
because he hasn't been getting home for like quarter after 4 and they practice the things.
Yeah.
4:30.
Yeah, there's an opportunity there. Right after
That
school.
it could be more useful than just 1v1 and a bunch of,
Yes.
yeah. And getting the ball thrown on his face.
Oh, I'm doing. Yeah,
No.
speaking.
There's a dirt on your sleeve too, JP, so you can't wear any work boots.
I left my laptop in my office.
You guys mind if I fill up my bracket while you get
Hey, I'm not checking Facebook or Instagram.
Oh, yeah, that's going on right now.
We'll try to keep it projected for you.
Can log on the phone.
Real nice, real mature. True.
A little hazy in our chair before we get started.
Well, I was at the grocery store buying groceries for dinner, and I got home and I saw all these very nice
Just
bags.
ex-employees, that's all.
We do to them.
It's funny, we were yelling out in the front today and looking back, Andrew's looking out front, what is going on out there?
I was like, by the time I get everything, I'm sorry. All right, well.
Old Skippy,
France, is he using a cane? Yeah.
ski pole.
Come on. Get off of my lawn.
Going out and get. Yeah.
Tim,
Yeah. Yeah. Jabbing right now.
Got a few.
You mostly done? Well, you could have been any better, right?
No.
McPherson boys told me they still got 100 left.
Oh, yeah, we probably started with
Yes,
600.
Yeah, that's what he said. He's like, I got a 550.
Oh, you got
Probably about 30.
no, man, total.
200.
Oh,
Still didn't get into my executive content. That's all. I was just a couple names on the other district.
It was like.
no, yeah, it was there.
That's, yeah, just that one.
Oh.
Yeah, so.
Thank you.
Go back to the meeting.
Yeah, well, it's been kind of slow. All right, 7 o'clock, you ready? Yep. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
Picture me out.
Yeah. Roll call, all 5 present. All here. Okay. Get a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Okay, so really quick.
Oh, catching up.
So on consent, so I believe we got it in the wrong space, but we're gonna have the addition of, see if their case, I'm struggling with that. There's 10.5, we need to ask the board to add 1 coach and 1 volunteer, even though we're not completely sure on the 1 coach. We wanted to try to get it approved if possible, so.
I'll make the motion to approve tonight's agenda with the addition of 10.05.
That's,
Yep, I knew it was there. I just couldn't find it.
I'll second that.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, I'd like to welcome the public. Does anybody have any public comment or questions related to non-agenda items? Michael?
I think I'm better at reading prepared statements than trying to just speak from my mind. I'd like to think I'm that person, but I'm not. So I have a statement I'd like to read. Thank you for including my concerns about non-enrolled students in co-curricular and extracurricular activities on tonight's agenda. I look forward to hearing your discussion and wish to make a statement when that time is appropriate. I've learned a lot from this process that has now spanned 4 board meetings and wish to share my concerns regarding this board's meeting procedure, specifically the process for setting agenda items. In short, I feel my concerns were not heard. As a board, you are elected representatives that are here to serve in the best interests of our community members. At the very least, if one of those members approaches the board with any concern, I would hope the board would listen and advise that person on the best way to have their concerns addressed. I've spent what I estimate to be over 20 hours of research, writing, discussion, and attending board meetings on this issue. But it wasn't until a few days after last month's board meeting that JP Thomas reached out to me to acknowledge and explain board procedure. And that's when I finally felt listened to, and I really appreciate you doing that, JP. I'd like to thank you very much for that effort. After the complete dismissal of my concerns at last month's meeting, I was ready to give up, not just with my concern of non-enrolled students, but the school board as a whole. In our call, JP clarified what I heard last month, that the board's policy on setting agenda items is that board members do not set agenda items, and all items are set by the superintendent or their staff. This is not what I expect from my school board, and in fact, it's against board policy. District Policy 1070, School Board Meeting Procedure states, in part, quote, all meetings shall be guided by an agenda prepared and delivered in advance by all board members and to other persons upon request. The superintendent shall prepare agendas in consultation with the chair or presiding officer. And here's the part I want to highlight. Items submitted by board members or other individuals may be included on the agenda. End quote. The way I understand your procedure as practiced now is you have an elected board of decision makers solely being fed an agenda by an unelected administrator. This administrator, the superintendent, plays a vital role in the board's governance, but so do the board members. And they need to be able to set agenda items as well. Additionally, Board Policy 1045, which is the board superintendent relationship, states that the roles of both the board and the superintendent to be, quote, maintain avenues for effective communication with all stakeholders, end quote. The way this board addressed concerns with this stakeholder was not effective. While it's clear to me that this board needs to review and follow its own policy, I wish to share my perspective in another way. I am a concerned community member, voter, taxpayer, and parent that is actively taking an interest in the governance of the school district. I call many of you my friends, and our families have shared many experiences. While I have not attended as many board meetings as you, I've observed that coordinated attempts at policy change are rare. And I believe JP mentioned our call that over his six-year tenure on the board, this is probably the first time that you've seen someone come to our board meeting and talk about this. All this is to say, no matter how a person addresses this board, I would hope you put aside any procedural concerns, listen, and then advise that person the best way to have their concerns addressed that follow written board policy. JP's discussion with me should have happened the very first time I addressed this board in December, instead of languishing for months despite repeated attempts at being heard. Thank you for listening. I sincerely hope you all consider my perspective and take the time to align your procedure with your policy and discuss ways to genuinely listen and assist the public with their concerns.
Anything else?
That's all I wanted to say about that.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
No, noted. I mean, I guess the board, when you came to the board, I thought we were pretty clear on how, like, your next step. I think you said in December, I thought we made it clear that you had to go through Mr. Sargent, but in the next meeting, you said that that wasn't clear. So I thought we specified that as far as a step as getting on the agenda. That doesn't mean we can't add agenda items, but he's the one that sets the agenda. So we push everybody towards him because he's the one that actually sets the agenda. That's why when I said go talk to him, that's how you get the ball rolling. Now you're on the agenda. So that's kind of how we go through most of our policy. I understand your concern as far as feeling like you fell through the cracks, but we address it at the board meetings. Our policies are in July, but now it's on the agenda. It's still going to be decided on in July. But we can decide tonight how to move forward with that wording, if that makes any sense. I
Yeah,
guess.
and I have a statement to make when we get to that agenda item. I just felt like this was kind of a separate.
Separate,
issue.
right, no, I get it.
I feel like your perspective and my perspective on what happened over the past 4 board meetings are a little bit different. I don't think we need to go into that, but bottom line, I just want to say is, there's not a whole lot of action.
You're right.
You guys know me, all right? And I mean, I'm up here making an effort. JP just at the last board meeting did what I felt should have happened in the beginning, which is just like, hey, there's hundreds of pages of board policy there, which you probably aren't familiar with. Let me help you, at least get this concern heard in a way. Because I did talk to Mr. Sargent after that very first meeting in December, and I wrote letters and I shared it with you, and didn't get any feedback at all, really precisely on how to get this issue addressed by the board in a way that there would be a vote. So I just hope that take some time to think about that. I mean, this is just my perspective. And this might be a unique circumstance, but I would like to see in the future that, just put procedure aside, or at least follow the policy that you have, and just help people out navigating whatever we need to do to be heard.
Move forward. Okay.
Yeah, feel free to talk to me anytime about that. Thank you.
I appreciate the information. Any other public comment or questions related to non-agenda items? Okay, let's go on, take a motion for the consent agenda. So everybody looks at.
I make the motion to approve the consent agenda with adjustment to 10.05.
Oh, that was canned.
That was the
Oh, that was the agenda?
agenda, yeah. This is
3.05.
from
Yes.
last.
So, okay, so I make the motion to get the consent agendas.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Questions? All those in favor? Okay, on to presentations. Tonight we have the elementary presentation.
This is Miss Miley Udall, fifth grade student at our elementary school. She is here to talk to you about a project with the naturalists they do all year. There are some artifacts. Be gentle with this guy. You can pass them down. Whenever you're ready, Miley.
Hi, my name is Miley, and I'm in fifth grade, Mr. Craig's class. I am here to talk about the naturalist. The naturalist is a good thing for everyone in fifth grade. Why is it is a good thing is because everyone gets to learn something new every time. Like we learned about schools, and it helped me help my family identify a school that we found. Our naturalists are Emma and Kate. They come from Missoula once a month. Kate is always happy to hear our questions, and I like that we have a field trip to Council Grove twice a year, once in fall and in spring. Council Grove is where the treaty was signed. Here are some likes from our fifth grade class. I like that Miss Kate is very energetic. I like that Miss Kate shows us something new every time. I like that Miss Kate is always happy to see us. I like that Miss Kate is happy to help us. Thank you. That concludes my speech.
Very nice. Are you nervous?
Did you find this?
Yeah. We were out at my grandpa's friend's old place, and they were just looking around for like deer sheds and stuff. So,
Very
Any
nice.
other questions for Miss Miley?
You did a great job.
Thank you, Miley.
Good job, Michael, Miley.
All right, on to 6.02 Superintendent National Conference.
So I know the board requested that I write some information about the conference in San Diego, National Superintendent Conference, that I was able to attend. I think it was probably the last one was about 2010. I went to a principal conference in Texas, so this was a great opportunity, first time to have the opportunity to go to a superintendent conference. Like most conferences, I won't read the complete, this is not going to be near as fun as Miley's. No pictures, so I won't try to bore everyone to death. Hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to read from the board standpoint, but a lot of what over the last 15 years, I have had the opportunity to go to state conferences. Affirmation is one of the things that we definitely get in terms of things that we're doing right, areas that we can do better. Had an opportunity to visit with schools that had students from 5,000 to 25,000 with 37 different pathways for careers, where they applied to what school, what pathway they would like to attend throughout high school. That was one area that we brought back and want to discuss how to do more of a K-12 interest and pathways oriented advisory starting in kindergarten, rather than, I know we do our culminating activity with our senior project, but how can we build those pathways possibly earlier in a student's life in terms of what they want to be when they grow up. So that was probably the one area, along with, you know, the future of education, lots of vendors that we were able to visit with, most of which come with a pretty big price tag, but the three that I'm still in communication with are Career Core Learning Exchange. It's a career program for CTE programs, where you can get certified in 1,200 different, or not even just certified, you can get certified, but you could also just take specific courses with 1,200 different career and technical courses in the industry. It was, I wish, you know, we could, you know, afford to have every student on some sort of pathway. It's very, you know, it's pretty expensive. but we're looking at a flight simulator as a possibility to build on with the Montana Advanced Opportunities Grant. How can we afford these things without spending, school money, but grant money to get more involved with the STEAM class, Mr. Peterson's CTE opportunities that he could possibly add to his Mission Forward classroom for career and class type oriented work for students and pathways. Advisory is another possibility. Monday mornings for elementary, can we get students in working on their career interests? Marisco was here last week, visited with them. They work with community development block grants, looked at the opportunities for the daycare remodel, teacher housing, the old gym air exchange. They did a complete walkthrough of the facilities. They have ideas I have not seen yet from our visit, but ways that they can help us with block grants, which is a lot of money. At the end of it, I felt like we were asking for a lot. He said, no, really the ones that get approved ask for, entire heating systems or air conditioning in the entire facility. So we added air conditioning to the entire facility. Likeliness of having that, probably, it's a long shot, but it's a shot worth taking. So they were here last week. Interplay, programs expansion, construction trades. Had a chance to visit with Vanessa Myers, take a look at the program. Verigy, another company that does similar work for energy focused, environmental type work. They were great to visit with. Edgenuity, which we already have, had an opportunity to visit with them. Chet Riddle was supposed to be here last week. He's not stopped by yet or reconfirmed when he will be back through the area, but he didn't make the meeting last week. Core curriculum, and in terms of curriculum that's rated more green, on the ed reports, that was the focus of the program with Edgenuity. Some platforms that are new. Special ed, they offered us 12 licenses as part of a grant that we could also write. There's 3 separate small grants that we could write to try to get more of that platform involved with the school for no cost to the school district. SELLUS, we're gonna continue to talk with them about the same type of program for those licenses and credit recovery. Then I just listed the different breakout sessions that I attended. Many, Portrait of Graduate, we just finished that. Fit to Lead, just on leadership. And again, I won't read every one of these. Hopefully you have an opportunity just to kind of skim through the takeaways from each one of those sessions. But AI, of course, is probably one of the bigger discussion items. One of the bigger, the breakout sessions, the general session that they had for keynotes were centered around AI, student safety, and then future readiness for students and how that's going to change in terms of the future and what's needed for future employment, future careers. Quotes that resonated with me, I just listed the things that, I brought back for me, and the district personally. Things that stood out. 40% of college students drop out. Career pathways to start in kindergarten. Goals. If systems don't change, results will never improve. Students are our customers. Get students involved at an early age in skill building for their futures. Sometimes, we spend a lot of time on the things that, we feel are important, but sometimes we also need to take time to spend with students and their interests. So, ask community members, be principal for a day. AI, tons of information on EI. The biggest takeaways there: don't fight against the current innovation. Create innovation councils in our districts. Don't wait for classroom versions. Create your own solutions. Adopt at the pace of industry. Don't let your fear get in the way of future readiness. Personalization over standardization, and looking at AI as a tool. It needs to be in the hands of students working with AI. There later on, I'll I'll go through some of the standouts in terms of AI and, the recommendations, but this is just a very quick snapshot of the sessions, but, building, your solutions, teachers using it as a tool, curriculum development, being able to differentiate, 20 different ways, with AI, all tools that can be used in schools that we need to take advantage of. Some schools spend as many as eight hours a week in advisory on their future careers and pathways. I thought that was incredible, pretty tough in Montana, with the curriculum expectations, but also we can do better. We may not be able to get 8 hours a week, but we can do a better job with the time that we do have to hopefully steer students in future preparation. And that was really my main goal was, how do we be more future ready? How can we, develop our pathways? I know at one point we had, the pathways that we had spelled out for each student to apply and start looking at, and the classes they select. But if we can start that in kindergarten and work that through our senior project, that would be time well served for students. So gainful employment, things are going to be, be curious, investigate the world, think deeply, express ideas, realize a future for yourselves. Students explore the work, 54 work experiences by the end of their 8th grade, one school district. I mean, those are kinds of things that we can bring people in that are career oriented, talking about careers more than we do just the 1 or 2 days a year, even in the elementary, having, career type come through, visit each classroom. Lots of ways that we can do a better job preparing our students better for the future. So meet community where they are, create a portrait of a learner. We've done that. We just finished that up for the comprehensive needs assessment. So a lot of that, that I brought back was able to apply to our portrait of a graduate. In terms of life ready, and AI and the overarching circle of, it still takes quality character. It still takes a global citizen, a communicator, a collaborator, a critical thinker, a creative thinker. Those are all things that we do. But I think, as a whole, read through the breakout sessions, but in all reality, the biggest things that I personally brought back in terms of goals is how we prepare students better for their future. So that's a very short, but I know we have a long agenda tonight. And if there's questions, about any of the breakouts or any of the sessions that I attended, let me know.
Just one quick one. I know AI is kind of the hot topic. So yeah, it's the future. Did they express any concerns or red flags as we introduce it to more and more students? I mean, it can be used in about every direction you want it.
And they said that's the thing to kind of look out for. Don't red flag it. Teach students how to use it. Don't run from it. Give it a hug because it's here, and you're gonna have to. It's gonna be a part of everyday life. Learn how to use it as a tool. Use it as an assistant. Use it to help you get the answers. You still have to apply the answers that AI gives you. You still have to go through it and make sure it answers the question you asked. I mean, you can get the answer to any question, but is it the right answer? And can you use that answer to apply it to real life problems, solutions? How are you going to take that information? And that was the biggest thing I took from it was really, it's here. Don't be the district that runs from it, tries to shut it down, because you really can't. And you can't identify it. You don't know. You could probably tell what parts of, there's parts of this that AI could develop. You could probably tell by reading it what I wrote and what I didn't. Those are things that, you can look at and see that, okay, these are identifiable, but you still have to be able to explain it in your own words. You can get answers. You can look at things. You can do those. That was the biggest thing they brought was don't run from it. Learn how to use it and learn how to still be, the communicator. You still have to get along with people. There's a whole lot more than just getting the answers or the fast track to knowing how to utilize AI. And he said, you won't be replaced. And they say you won't be replaced. I questioned that myself personally, but they said as a whole right now, you're not going to be replaced with AI, but you may be replaced with somebody that knows AI and knows how to utilize that tool better to get to where companies or businesses or construction needs to be in any field that understands AI, can utilize AI, sift through what's right, what's wrong, and use it as a tool. And they basically said it's like having your own intern. Treat AI like an intern. Don't treat it as the teacher or the answer. You have to treat it as something, as a tool that's going to help you get to where you want to be. I mean, we're using it already, in our comprehensive needs assessment for the state. I mean, we're pumping things into there, and first you pump in a bunch of information, and it gives you the same information back. Then you ask simple questions, build on simple questions where it is that you want it to be, and then you can take it through that. Take that information, add that information that you want added, and have a quality something to present to the state for whatever it may be. I mean, people are using it, in a lot of different ways, but really the main thing was you still have to be able to utilize it in a proper way and still be able to apply it. That was very fast, but we got a lot. So,
Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on to correspondence, resignation.
we had one resignation. We had one maintenance resignation and one teacher resignation. Both listed in public content.
All right. Move on to board preparation and planning, board agenda and governance calendar,
On pace.
district goals.
District goals are updated. Also integrated some of the information brought back from the conference, integrated that as well as our comprehensive needs assessment that had to be done by next Tuesday. That's been submitted to the state. That's a big part of our accreditation process this year. There was 317 pages of surveys. And when I plugged it in, really our strategic 5-year plan and our annual goals was probably the two parts that I used. And probably out of those 100 pages, 200 pages of surveys and other information wasn't used as much. And you had 30 minutes to enter it once you started it. So you really had to plug in and go and really just say, okay, see Appendix A, 39, or you had to be able to go bounce around quite a bit. But our 5-year plan, I mean, in terms of what was wanted from the state, we've been doing since we created our strategic 5-year plan 15 years ago. So it's something that's in practice. It's something that we do. A lot of schools are creating the strategic plan for the first time. We've had ours, we're using ours. There's things we had to add to it. Profile of a graduate, for example, had to be added. Our change to our early literacy program had to be added. There's parts that had to be added to our strategic plan, but for the most part, we're practicing, I think, what the expectations are.
Any questions? Okay, that's public. So we'll move on to new business, proposed handbook policy for July handbooks, K through 12.
Okay, so for this, and I know Micah has, had questions over the last 4 months, rather than wait till July, I felt it would be probably time well served to go over this so that we have approval of the board of what exactly goes into our extracurriculars. Where does MCT play fall into? And really, there are 3 different areas that we have. Extracurricular activities are open to all students that reside within our school district. That's a state law. It doesn't necessarily mean we agree with it. It is the law, so we have to follow it. Any student in this school district can be a part of extracurriculars in our school district to participate in. So within our school district, it says, so let me just read through the policy. Hopefully it all makes sense. Extracurricular activities are open to all students that reside within our school district. Co-curricular activities are an extension of the classroom that are fully or partially funded by the school. To participate in co-curriculars, a student must be enrolled in our school district. Clubs, activities that are non-school sponsored are available to all students in the community. We may have soccer on the back field, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we sponsor that. It's a club that we, have on school grounds, but we're not responsible. We don't pay the insurance. It is community oriented. Boys and Girls Club, we work hand in hand. We worked with them financially for the first 2 years. They're on their own. It's those clubs and activities. Little Guy Wrestling. We offer the space, but we don't pay for coaches. They have their own insurance. Mountain Man Wrestling Club. They may use the wrestling room, but we don't sponsor, put money towards that in any way, shape, or form. They run their own insurance, etc. Co-curricular, and there's a long list of co-curriculars of things that we do fund partially or fully. So there may be some of these that we fund 100%. There may be some that we fund partially or in full, but those are an extension of the classroom. Really, it boils down to where do each of these fall in terms of what participation is allowed. It came up this year, bingo for books. We pay for the books. Do we allow, community members that aren't students of ours? Next year, they won't be. Next year, it'll be for our students. It will be an extension for our reading to get books into the hands of our students for bingo for books. It falls under a co-curricular activity that the principal sponsors. A lot of these they fundraise for. Special Olympics, they do a ton of fundraising. Saturday, there'll be a fundraiser for Special Olympics. These are things that students are working on, and the school helps either partially or completely with the financial support for these clubs and programs in terms of co-curricular. Co-curricular truly is an extension of the classroom. The board wanted more drama in the school district. We've had MCT for probably 20 years. They've come at first, it was completely, they fundraised for it completely. Over the years, it has gotten more expensive. The schools had to kick in. And it's like up to about $3,300 to have the MCT here. Drama, we've tried to get going at the high school level. We haven't had the interest to be able to, the board approved funding coach last year, but we weren't able to get enough students to get, the drama program off. But again, that would be, a co-curricular activity extension of what it is that we offer, we pay for. We could turn it over to the community, make it a club, and we back completely out of it. It's then the community can run it. I have no, that is an option. You could say community, they'll have to do the fundraising, figure out how to house the folks that sponsor that, that run the play. That is an option. I don't recommend that. I worry that if there isn't the financial support or someone driving it, that it could fall apart. I mean, that's my recommendation is to leave it as a co-curricular. But the board does have a choice to make it a club. But that would not be my recommendation if we want to increase the opportunities for our kids. My job is our kids, and my recommendation is for our students, and that's my job. And that's where I think it's best served as a co-curricular, but that's my recommendation. My recommendation is to approve extracurricular, co-curricular, and non-sponsored clubs as listed and presented.
Question. Clarify, shoot, I just hit the wrong button. Clarify at the very top. We're recommending adding this proposed attached policy to the handbooks for next year, 24-25 school year that we presented in July for normal approval. So we're not approving this, we're just.
You're approving the policy that will be added to the handbooks, and then you'll be approving the handbooks in July. Normally, we would do this all in July, but since this has become kind of something that has a lot of questions, I went through, and I think there's probably confusion, probably not the only person confused by extracurricular now being imposed upon by homeschool students that can now participate. That's a legal change that we're bound to, and there probably is. I get the confusion. So we did need to separate, what it is that is allowed by law, what is expected of us, and what our recommendation is, and where things fall, so there isn't confusion in the future.
Do other schools does MCT go to other schools and do they run it like we run it? I mean, or do some schools term it a non-school sponsored activity if they have it, if MCT comes to them and they do that?
I don't know.
Or I'm just wondering how it's done elsewhere. Not that we're not doing it right, just that, what's the.
I don't know. I could find out.
Okay.
But I don't know, right? If you're asking me
Off the
right
top of
now,
your head,
I don't.
That's
Any of the other co-curricular groups had interest from non-students, or have you?
The only one that's come up recently was Bingo for Books, and the question of whether or not it should be for our students or not. So from here on out, next year it'll be for our students if this is approved tonight. That's really the only one that's come up as a question in terms of people wanting to take advantage of or look at, join, whatever.
What has been the amount of non-student participation within Missoula Theaters Chief? Missoula Children's Theater.
Over the years? This one's gone back and forth probably 3 times in terms of open to all community, closed to our students. I can think of 3 different times that it's gone back and forth.
And
Opened and then
why did it do that?
for the same reason it did last
Last
year,
year.
where our kids were cut,
Oh,
parents were upset, and then we said no. The next year we said no community members, it's just for our students.
and then we went back.
And then it
to
went
being-
away, and then it was opened up
to-
again, and so I'm just thinking historically, I don't know exactly how many times, but it feels to me like we've been back and forth on this one 3 times.
But how many kids participate that aren't students every year?
There's not many. I don't even know. How many last year?
5 to 10.
5?
Last year was a lot. Yeah.
5 to 10?
Probably 10, I'd say on the higher side,
10 non-students?
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe 15.
And again, why is Missoula Children's Theater cutting students? Not enough costumes, I think a lot of
They
times
only
is
bring
the
enough
issue.
costumes for a certain handicap.
Small stage.
That's the nature of the program, is students are exposed to a program where they have to audition, and yes, some people are cut. I don't want to go too far into it because I know you're still discussing this, but my concern originally over this was we're not even extending the opportunity for a certain demographic to be cut by excluding them from audition.
No, but we're highlighting an opportunity for our students to participate this way.
By excluding non-rural students.
By giving our students the priority. Not necessarily exclusion, but giving them the priority.
How is it not excluding?
Well, you can look at it both ways, but I'm leaning towards that it is a school-sponsored event that we bring in for our students, that we have to keep our students in mind first for it.
I think if you go back and read in my original letter that I think I wrote in January, my argument is that yes, I understand the school board here and the superintendent is here to look out after enrolled students, but many non-enrolled students come in and out of the school district all the time for various reasons. Some are beyond their control. Some are leaving because they don't have programs that they desire and they're not getting the support they need. Some are leaving because they don't have the right family situation to support them. Heck, 4 years ago, everybody was homeschooled. So, you know, the way I see it is we have an educational ecosystem, I guess you could say, in our community. Public school is part of it, so is private, and so is homeschool. And I understand that this board and district is looking out for enrolled students. I get that. But we also have the opportunity to kind of extend an olive branch and be open and inclusive. I think value comes from diversity. And if we have kids coming from different educational backgrounds, that's a benefit to all of our students, enrolled or not enrolled. And you know what? We have a declining enrollment. I see the stats every board meeting here. You know, I don't know the reasons behind it, but I can't help but think that maybe some of these students we could bring back to the public school by showing a gesture of inclusion. I have some other statements. Are you ready for that? Or
Question is, are you ready for public comment or are you still in your?
Yeah. Need a motion first?
Well, don't we motion it and then there's a discussion.
Okay. So motion it first and then have a discussion. So the motion is the list as presented, and adding proposed attached policy to all handbooks for the 24-25 school year that will be presented in July as a normal for approval. So the handbooks so the wording won't actually be approved until July. This is approved to be put into the handbook.
This policy will be approved tonight, but it really won't take effect until you approve the handbook for next year.
Which can be modified at that point or no?
You can modify any part of the handbook
in July.
Okay. Yeah. But you are approving this policy. Right. So I guess in a way, yeah, you're approving the policy tonight. That will be two things. One, it'll be approved tonight, so it is policy, administrative rule for the rest of this year, and then you can decide in July if this will be written as, if approved, it'll be in every handbook like this, and then anytime you can change. The board has the right to change anything in a handbook during the handbook approval policy time.
Okay, so to be clear, we're approving the list that you have listed as extracurricular, co-curricular, and clubs.
Yes. Non-school
As
sponsored.
presented. Yeah, as presented.
Definition and this.
So. Can we have more discussion before a motion? Or do we have to make a motion and discuss?
So we have to make a motion, then second it or before seconded? Or do we have a motion?
There's no motion.
No
motion.
There's
No, I know,
motion.
but we have
I mean,
discussion
my question
before.
is, can we internally still discuss this before a motion?
I don't think
I
you're
don't
supposed to.
believe that you're supposed to. I think you have to, I think that you have to discuss the motion as presented.
It has to get a second or it dies
Or
or have a
else
second
it
without
dies, and
discussion.
that's how business would be done if the three people did not agree with the current.
I mean, not discussion, I still got questions for.
You can ask questions, yeah.
Yeah.
But we're not, as far as discussion goes
Yeah.
throughout.
So I can still ask questions.
Go for it.
Okay, so, I mean, looking at your list of co-curricular, we've never had any non-enrolled student do any other of these. Go on field trips or
No.
academic bowl or college visits.
No.
And these are all the school sponsored activities. We've never had any other.
Right.
Non-student participating besides extracurricular,
Which is now,
like by law.
but not in the past.
Yeah.
Not up until the law changed.
And if a group wanted to take it on and we'd give it up and it's on the facility use,
Yes.
they would have to make that commitment at what time? Like,
Well, and I think that's probably the question tonight, or when the policy is approved, we could turn it over to the community. Say, here you go. It's yours. You have the facilities. We're not going to financially be part of it anymore. It is then it's just moving it from co-curricular to a non-school sponsored event. Then they fill out the facility use. They utilize the school, but we're not responsible financially for any part of it, nor are our teachers sponsoring it or the help. So yeah, you could move it from co-curricular to non-school sponsored.
Has there been a community member or any community group that's ever has there ever been discussion of a community group or member wanting to take it over away from the school?
No.
Or away from the, financial
No.
control of the school?
the Nine Pipe Arts Group, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that group, was kind of based out of, I don't know, Carolyn Myrie ran it, and they sponsored the Shakespeare in the parks in both towns. But they've kind of aged out. It's kind of become defunct. But I really do believe that's who took charge of it there in Charlottesville. It wasn't school related at all. It was the Nine Pipe Arts Group, and I don't know if that group helped with the children's theater and the Shakespeare in the Park. But there was collaboration. I think that group was in charge, but
So there's a community group that
Yeah.
helped.
that did it. They housed
Um,
the troop, but I do also believe there were staff members that was kind of like, I don't know if they got paid a stipend or volunteered that, because I'm sure they would like a little input on some of the things and just where the light switches were and this and that. So there still was some staff involvement, and I like the idea because there's some kids that maybe could really use that experience, that maybe they get picked last every day at recess and they have a chance that maybe on stage and that teacher would know that maybe that, I don't know if they ever whisper in the back, like any idea that children theater, if they kind of ask for some consulting, or there might be students that say, we have a real hard time keeping in his seat. And yet, maybe it's good that you get this opportunity to try the theater, but there might be a little heads up that he's a handful or she's a handful. So I like the idea of the school being involved to a point, but I also like the inclusion of community, because to me, theater is community. When you go out all around the state, there's community theaters, Folsom Community Theater, Shakespeare in the Park Community Theater. So to me, theater, if there was an activity that kind of should be community, it would be theater to me. But that's just my thought on it.
So just to sum this up, so the agenda item tonight is the action item is extracurricular items on this list are sporting events governed by MHSA, which allows any student in the district to participate. According to our handbook, co-curricular students must be registered at St. Ignace Elementary School in order to participate. So all them listed on there are co-curricular at this time. That being said, clubs activities are the other ones available to all students in the community. So we are approving this list. So if July comes around and we can get community members, teachers, anybody that would show interest of taking over the program, because right now, as listed, if we leave it as co-curricular, they're not able to participate according to our handbook. So the only way I see out of that is to put it into a club or activity, which involves everybody, which is great. But the concern would be
Fundraising.
Well, that's what I mean. The school would not fund it at all like they do now. They fund some. We'll have the facility. I'm just saying, in order to make it work, we're gonna have to have people involvement, so I guess my challenge is, and maybe you've already talked to a lot of people, but there are art groups out there. There are ways to get community members involved in all this, and it can still be faculty members. It can be students here. I'm not saying it just has to be an outside entity, but in order for MCT is either going to stay on the co-curricular list, which it has to be enrolled in this school, that's our policy, or we move it to a club activity in July, because this is what's presented right now as a co-curricular. So in the next couple months, my challenge to any community member would be like, hey, I think we can make this work as a club. We have enough interest, because the biggest concern is this is a great opportunity for our students. It is fun for them. So I hate to see it not happen, I guess would be my biggest concern. But I'm also a community person and I welcome the community, and if we can involve them, great. But that's the only way, as our policies are stated, that's the only way this will work. Does that make sense? So it's right now, yeah, well, no, I'm just asking, because I'm just seeing if you understand what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying, but there's another way. And can I?
Let's take a motion.
Is it
Okay.
time for me?
We'll take a motion and then, well, we got,
One more question.
Yep.
Sorry,
no, you're good.
I always got questions. How much, we fund about 2/3 of this?
It varies. I mean, you might get a big donor. We just had a donor last week that, is going to give us a few $100s, but you never know. I mean, it depends on the sponsor. The sponsors change every year. Who's going to take it, it depends on, there's a lot of variables on how much. I can tell you that what used to be 100% fundraised is not even close to what it costs the school now.
Last year we spent probably about $2,000.
We probably spent $2,000. How much did you fundraise last year?
The price of fundraise, nothing. I applied for a grant. It was only $500. I got it. It's $3,000 total. And then I had to take the rest out of the elementary student activity account.
So
And
ticket
Because the
sales,
gate
And then
did not
gate.
cover it.
I
Ticket
was just
sales
gonna
did
say,
not cover it.
Gate doesn't
And
cover
then
the
we have
cost.
to house the,
Yep, we have to
Instructors?
house, sorry, is it okay if I come up and talk?
Yes, please.
We have to house the actors, and Brenda Arlen is gracious enough to, always reach out to me and say, hey, what week do you think that are gonna come? And she does that for free. And then, sorry, I lost my train of thought. House them.
To pay for the
To
music.
pay for the music, yep, that was what I was going, thank you, Mr. Sergeant. You have to have an accompanist, a pianist, sorry, or a guitarist, and, usually we pay them a stipend, right, because we're asking for their services. But last year we didn't have that, so we had to pay for their soundtrack, and it was $350 for their CD. And, the price used to be $1,800, and it's gone up, and now it's $3,000.
And it's taken out of the student activity.
Yep, because the gate cost, hasn't risen over the past couple of years. Like, I know our community, I know what, I'm not gonna raise, they recommend like $15 a ticket, and I'm not gonna charge $15 a ticket to come watch the Missoula Children's Theater, you know? Like, I'm servicing our community here, and the gate prices just aren't covering their rising costs. It's really unfortunate. And then the grant every year gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
Do different plays require more students? You know
No.
that? You could know about the same all the time.
It's the same. I just have noticed over the past 3 years, the cost just keeps going up, and I don't know why. It's probably because their actors travel and they have to pay for housing and gas and the van and maintenance on the van that they use, and then costumes and
And there was cuts. even-
salaries, right? They paid them. Yeah.
Was there cuts even with, because last year the community couldn't participate, is that true? Have we did 1 year without the community? No, it's
No.
coming up.
Yeah.
Last year, okay.
And they did do cuts. They did do cuts the year before. They've always done cuts, and so I think it just depends on how many kiddos we get trying out. 3 years ago, we didn't have as many as we did this year or the year before, and so I don't think they had to do
This was
cuts.
the first year we did not allow
Mhm.
outside.
There's still cuts.
There were no cuts this year.
There were no cuts this year?
0 cuts, only mission students and every kid got
Perfect.
tried out
Perfect.
for the first time since.
Wasn't it 2 years ago, right? They cut like 4 or 5 kids?
No, way more than that.
Way more than
Like
that.
a good
See.
chunk, like 15 of our mission kids got cut.
And I think it depends on the show too. Like, we'll have more elementary kids try out for some, and then we'll have more high schoolers try out for some. And then each show has probably different parts that vary for more speaking parts versus, it's kind of a mess.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion? There's no more questions?
Yeah, anybody else?
I would make a motion to approve the list as presented.
Any second? So the motion dies.
If I'm looking around, I don't have a second, then
We need a new motion.
we can have a remotion, if that motion does not carry.
I'll make a second.
JP seconds.
Okay.
So we can have conversation.
Okay, so it's been moved and
There we go.
seconded. Any discussion? Now it's open.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate this discussion. I really just want to, first off, ask a question. Did you all receive my letter that was dated March 12th? You did, where I go through and I wrote down word for word what policy I want changed and how. Okay. This is not represented on the agenda tonight. It hasn't been discussed, my proposal. I'm assuming this is what Mr. Sargent wrote, which is fine. He, by all means, should share this and others if they have other proposals as well. But I just wanted to be known that these are not my words. These are not my feelings or perspectives or my proposal at all. And this is one way to handle the situation. But my proposal is to include everybody and make all these activities open for either enroll or not enroll by changing the, the policy that I proposed in that March 12th letter. And
So
I
you're,
think
you're asking us to open up all the co-curricular activities, whether they go to school here or not,
To
On the school-
non-enrolled students is what you have here.
to non-enrolled students?
which is how it's been. I don't think there's been any policy that up until that phrase in the elementary handbook for this school year that says that non-enrolled students aren't allowed. So basically, I'm asking to go back to what we've been doing. But as I wrote in my first letter, I'm concerned that, by excluding kids out of MCT this one year, okay, that's what started this. That's what I heard about. And of course, I want to see non-enrolled kids involved in MCT. And it sounds like that predominantly is where non-enrolled kids are taking part in. But you have all these other co-curricular activities listed out that, that might be of interest to someone. And it goes back to my point that I was talking about earlier. Let's be inclusive of everybody. Who knows what good things might come of this? If we bring in homeschoolers and private schoolers, and include them in MCT, maybe one of those families we're going to get excited and want to run the drama club or something like that. It's not just about MCT with me. It's about including everyone in the community.
So I'll just pick one out. So how do you propose academic bowl when they're not in the class with the kids that are actually preparing for academic bowl? If they're not enrolled here, how are they going to participate?
I'm unfamiliar with academic goals. Is that a class?
Well, it's a co-curricular activity. I'm just saying you want to open to all of them. I'm just saying a lot of these are during class time.
Well, this is the first time I've seen the list of co-curricular and extracurricular activities. It's not been made.
Right. This is our list. This isn't something you just made up. This is how it's kind of listed as what's school funded, what's governed, what's considered extracurricular. Co-curricular is what's funded by the school. So it might be a new list, but this is a list that the school funds. So is what you might have just created it, but it probably needed to be done before. But what I'm saying is all the co-curricular that are listed are, like you said, partially funded by this school for students that go to school here. So that's my question. It's like you want to open the whole thing, but how do we do that? Because you can't do that.
Why not?
Better question might be.
I just asked you, how are you going to participate in academic bowl if you don't go to school here?
Well, I mean, it's just as the same as extracurricular activities. If someone wants to play football or baseball,
Those are after school.
why can't they come during school?
Who?
I don't know.
No, I'm just asking you. I mean, I'm pulling out. I mean, look at like music festival. They're in music class going over what they're going to do for the plays and for the Christmas concerts.
Okay, I mean, some of these might not be possible in that regard. but
Which ones are you referring to that you want to include non-enrolled students to them?
I want to get.
What
I
activities?
want all of them. I just don't want any
Do
policy
you have an example of what activity?
to include kids in.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, MCT is what we've been talking about.
Well, besides that, I mean, you said you're not here just talking about MCT. You want to talk about all co-curricular activities. So did you have another example of another co-curricular that you wanted non-enrolled students to
No.
participate in?
But I want to create the potential for anybody who does have interest to take part.
So we are talking about MCT then, more specifically.
I mean, that's what we have been talking about, but, this policy that excludes non-enrolled students that appeared this year excludes them from whatever you have listed here, if you agree with it. So, and I just want to, my original proposal was to get rid of that. And so that if non-enrolled student shows any interest in any of these co-curriculars, which I know historically, it sounds like they haven't, but they could if they did.
And to Jeff's point, I mean, there's limited opportunity or chance or ability for them to participate in any co-curricular activity if they're not enrolled here. And so that's where this list has come from, and that's where MCT, we're approving it to be added to that list because of the function it does for our school, within our school.
Well, maybe this is another, perhaps for lack of a better term, recruiting tool. If non-enrolled student sees all these activities that they could be involved with and they get a little taste of it, like, wow, this is fun. And, I did MCT and I was talking to a fellow, student there who mentioned academic bowl. That sounds fun. I'm going to go home and tell my parents that I want to be enrolled into public school this year or now, I mean, I'm working on, MCT is important to me, don't get me wrong, but I'm just trying to get
Open
rid
up
of this
everything
exclusionary.
for
Yes,
everybody.
So
yes.
that's the issue, is your suggested policy change would open up everything as opposed to MCD only. And so that's when we reviewed your policy proposal, that's kind of a red flag to us that doesn't work with all of our co-curricular activities.
So I think part of what we did here is this list isn't just pulled out of thin air. This is how all of our extracurricular, all of our events and clubs filtered through the definitions of what is extracurricular. That is all those activities that fall under the rules of extracurricular.
Yep.
Co-curricular, given that definition, these are all the clubs and the groups that fall under co-curricular by definition. Clubs and whatnot down at the bottom are, by definition, that's where they land. We've never had this list this extensive before, which is one of the first steps we have to do to be able to take the next step to determine what falls into what. And that's what this step is, based on what is school sponsored. And there's some on this one that I wasn't even fully aware of that were under school sponsored. But also, to your awareness as well, we have a lot of co-curriculars there that's just completely unable just to open up to the extent of enrolled and non-enrolled. The 8th grade, the tour of Montana is a 4 to 5 month in-class project by the 8th grade class. To open that up to non-enrolled is an extremely difficult thing to try to navigate within the public schools setting in a day in, day out basis. It's not just an evening practice. It's not just a week-long thing. They're moving towards that. I mean, even you talk about history from 6th, 7th into 8th, they're preparing the middle school classes for that tour of Montana. That's just one. So then that creates this whole dynamic of and then that's the difficult thing, is where lands what when the school is funding.
Yeah, that's a good point, JP. I you guys probably know more about something like this. I've read through this and I don't know half these things are, or at least the details of it, right?
Yeah.
So, and maybe just by their nature, they'll probably never receive any interest from non-enrolled students, which historically they have, right?
So you understand our concern of when you just suggested a blanket policy change to open all co-curricular.
How have we functioned up until this year? I mean, because up until this year, we've always been accepting of that, right? But now, since we have this list, in a way, you're advertising.
We have cut out the homeschoolers before. As I said earlier, there's been at least 3 times this has been back and forth.
From what?
From not allowing to allowing to not
For
allowing.
MCT though?
Huh?
Just for MCT.
For MCT.
Yeah, I think they're talking about.
And I can tell you, just as a flip side of this, the board doesn't see the parents that come in upset after their kids are crying and upset for being cut and asking me, why are we allowing homeschoolers ahead of my child who goes to school here? They don't see that. There could easily be on the other side of this, approve it the other way. And I could ask those parents, have you talked to the board members? I don't do that. I take it. I'm the one that has to listen to it. So the reason it was then brought to the elementary, because that is, I agree with them. I do. I agree with it. I don't agree with extracurriculars. Personally, I don't like it. I think if you want to be a part of the public school system, sign your kids up and be a part of the public school system. I don't like that extracurriculars. That's a law. I don't, every part of me disagrees with that. And I agree with the parent that comes in and says, how come my kid left in tears from the MCT last night? That's a good question. Do I bring them, do I steer them to the board so they can all stand up, be upset? Those are tough questions for me to answer, when I agree with them, they probably shouldn't have been cut. I wish MCT could have kept 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 more kids as trees, and we may not be here. You know what? That would have been nice, but it wasn't, you know, and they're upset. And if we want to turn this into a, you know, something that I don't want it to be, you know, I think we have two choices. We either leave it where it is or make it an on-school sponsored. You can take it over and head it up, whoever. Well, I'm saying somebody that's into wanting both has to take it on. My caution is I'm worried it will no longer be. And that's what my concern is. And we have to pick one or the other. And unfortunately, we're in a place in public schools that we either, I don't know how you would go through here and say, okay, this you're allowed, but this you're not, this you're allowed. Right now, law says extracurriculars. Right now, clubs and things that are community oriented are still there. We're talking about MCT. We've spent a lot of time on this, respectfully. And we either need to put it as a non-school sponsored for next year and someone takes it on, or it stays as a co-curricular extension of our classroom. The school funds it and it's an opportunity for our kids. And I hate to cut this, but that's my recommendation. I won't say another word, but that's kind of where I'm at with it.
I'm more upset with MCT for cutting. I mean, we're a non-cut school already for extracurricular activities, and yet we're sponsoring an activity that's cutting kids. We're not being all inclusive in that race.
Right.
You know, and so, you know, and this until we can figure that out with MCT, or they can change their policy of not cutting. I mean, this is where I feel it should be. We need to try to promote our current students as much as we can.
Is there an opportunity for other public comment in addition to my case?
Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, just real quick, those same tears and hard conversations that you heard from family members were heard in the other homes as well. That feeling is shared amongst many households in our community. And I don't want to see it move to whatever you call it, the non-school sponsored community activity. I think that this has been a tradition here in the school district, and one that has been predominantly extended out to the community, and it's worked well. And, you know, I understand that funding for all these co-curriculars is predominantly hosted through the school, but, you know, has anybody asked some of these other families to take part in that? You know, again, this is an opportunity to reach out to other families and have them be a part of it, and could attract them back to the school district. So, just to be clear, I don't want to see this approved and added to the handbooks for July as is. I think that we could perhaps find some middle ground in between my proposal and this. It might take a little bit more work to go through and look at some of these activities and really, you know, through the lens of, can we include everybody in this? Yeah. Some, yeah, like the 8th grade field trip. Okay. I get it. Yeah. That's not suitable for non-rural kids, but I feel like quite a few of these could be. All right, thank you.
Hi, I'd like to give additional comment on this issue. I'm a passionate public educator. I've been teaching for 18 years in 2 states and 2 countries, always in public education. I think that public education is what holds communities together. I think all our kids should enroll in public education. I think our schools would be stronger and would thrive if all of these homeschool families would enroll their students. If all of these families who have time at home and energy to devote to homeschooling their students brought that energy to our school, and that energy benefited all of our kids, our school would be stronger and our community would be stronger. However, it's our job here to educate the kids that pay our salaries. Because I know we all pay taxes here, but the reality of funding in Montana is that we receive funding per enrolled student. That is the vast majority of our funding. It is our duty to serve those students the best we can. And wow, look at this list. This is an amazing list of things that in a small school, us teachers and staff members are trying to provide for our students. I'm really proud to look at this list. We hear from a lot of families, I hear from a lot of friends who homeschool, oh, well, the school isn't providing enough enrichment. We're putting all kinds of time in this. We care about our kids, and each of those activities represents staff members volunteering their time. That's what you have to know. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to volunteer my time for the ones that I've been involved in if I also have to take homeschool kids that I don't know enough to trust to be part of that activity. I don't have that relationship with them that I've built over many years to take them on a trip. Taking 4 students to the wonderful thing about our district is every time a staff member comes and says, hey, I have this great idea. I want to do FCCLA. Hasn't been done at school for a while. Or I want to take kids to this really cool art retreat where kids from all over the state, public schools, get together and share in this art experience overnight. I'm willing to sleep on the gym floor to do this for our kids in April. And I know our kids probably can't afford it. It's $60. I went to Jason, he said, yeah, we'll cover that for those kids if there's interest. So I'm taking 4 kids to Missoula. It's not on this list yet because I just proposed it, right? We'd have to be adding things, taking things away. I want to take those kids because I know those kids. I've been teaching them since 6th grade and I trust them. I want to give them this opportunity. I want these opportunities for our kids who are enrolled here. Our homeschooling families, I'd love them to come in, but guess what? They have a variety of reasons they're not enrolled in school. They also have flexibility in their schedule. MCT offers after-school programming that they could attend in Missoula. Homeschool families could get together, start a community theater. Hey, we could have MCT sponsored by the school in the fall, sponsored by the community in the spring, twice a year. That'd be amazing for everybody. So I agree with this. I believe that it's in the interest of our school to keep these activities for our students who are enrolled and continue to build on them. And I love that I work for a district that when I propose something as a teacher and I say, I'm willing to put myself forward and do this, the district usually says yes. So thank you.
So one more thought, kind of just the phrase co-curricular means that you're taking part with the curriculum and that the club or whatever is part enhances that experience. Because I really think that that term was started with the CTE clubs, the skills, the BPAs, the FLC. That's where co-curricular, because you don't have the option unless you're part of that curriculum. When Wendy Olson's daughter came to run and to be part of the FFA, she had to spend time with the curriculum before she could be part of that organization, which I agree with. And so she spent time. She might, but you know, it was just a little different setup. But
Yeah, we had an MOU signed with them that she was able to join the FCCLA through us, then them.
yeah,
And so that's kind of where I tried to make the list an extension. The co-curriculars, things that we fund, are an extension of the classroom. It is an extension of what we're trying to promote for our students.
yeah.
Clubs,
Along with the curriculum.
activities, non-school sponsored. There's a lot of them, and I mean they're great. But we don't put money or effort in. I mean, we do put effort into them. There's a lot of he runs the whole baseball, league and a lot of people do a lot of things for nothing. I mean, a good majority of these things are volunteer from teachers. There's volunteers in the school that looking at every one of the non-school sponsored has some sort of teacher involvement as well.
Looking at this list, judges have something to say, I guess. I think that the MCT would be better served as a non-school sponsored activity. We leave it up to the community. If they want it, they put the effort and the time into making sure that happens. And if it goes away, it goes away, and that means that people weren't willing to put the time and effort into it. Or it goes along the lines of what Ms. Shellman said, and if it were a group that wanted to do, we have, one in the fall and one in the spring, one that's school sponsored and one that's done more on a community level. But that's just where I'm sitting with this.
I think we can work towards that if the community wants to, but
Yeah.
in order for it to survive right now, it needs to be under control.
But like somebody else said, a lot of everything, like Stan was saying, co-curricular is generally an extension of the classroom. Like JP used the example of the tour of Montana. That's an extension of the classroom. MCT, I guess, I don't know, my kids never did it, but from what I understand of it, it's not necessarily an extension of the classroom.
And I think from the extension of the standard is the arts. We're trying to promote the arts. I mean,
And that's where
Miss-
you could, yeah.
it's, Miss Baldwin is, her concerts
A lot of her
are
students.
completely, but our school goal was to increase drama and opportunities for students.
We might,
That was a direct goal the board
Yeah.
gave me, was to increase opportunities for drama. We're trying.
and we might have more interest in drama in high school if kids are cut.
So this motion has been moved and seconded, and this is the proposed policy. This can still be amended in the July handbook presentation, so this is nothing stuck in stone, but for what's presented tonight, that's what has been moved and seconded.
Correct.
This is what is going to be presented in July that can be talked about then.
This will be put in every handbook for July. And at that point, if you want to make a change, then as we would normally for all handbook policy in July.
What about, to my knowledge, I went through the appropriate procedure to get my proposal on the agenda, which I'm assuming this is. And it's not up here, and it sounds like that's not what you're voting for. So how is that going to be represented?
I don't know if correct me if I'm wrong, but you got an agenda item topic, not necessarily a proposal on the agenda.
But in my letter, I very detailed, if you read it, it was
Yeah.
very precise about what I proposed. It was not this. So this, someone else took my idea basically and put their own up for vote.
But you're proposing to open up every one of these clubs. We can't do that.
Well, that's what we're voting on.
That's what we're voting on, right? We can open them up to everybody.
But you're about ready to make a decision based off of something that's not what I proposed.
No, we're making a proposal on the list of the activities that we currently have and how they're funded. This is what's going to be presented in the handbooks that we change or don't change in July. That's all this is. This is just,
Yeah.
we're going to add this to the handbook that can still be changed in July when we actually go through the handbooks.
I'm very clear on that, but it goes back to what I was saying earlier in the meeting about the difficulties of getting my proposal in front of the board and to have a decision made on that, not someone else's idea.
I think the confusion might be that community members, and I know because I've been here at every board meeting basically for the last 3.5 years. We don't just, communities, teachers, administrators, we don't just get to put things on for you to vote on. That's just not how the school board works. The action items come from the superintendent and then they're voted on.
You would be amazed how many people come in and say they want to talk to the board. Anything from a discipline referral to endless number of people come to me and say, I want to talk to the board about I get that a lot. And we're not gonna sit through a middle school discipline referral, you know, I mean, that's so far away from the what you're talking about, but you had a lot of questions I think this answers in terms of MCT. That was the intent. You had a lot of questions you want answered. Unless there's I guess I'm confused as to what else you'd have to come in, and you came in once, visited with me, once on the phone, you asked questions, I answered questions. I wrote a policy to get the questions answered that I thought you needed in terms of organization of co-curricular, non-school sponsored. So right now I'm confused what exactly it is, but it would probably, you know, I don't know what else.
You answered all my questions, but this is not what I requested. And I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself, so I'm sorry. But, you know, going back to what I recited earlier about this district policy for meeting procedure, items submitted by board members or other individuals, which myself can be included on the agenda. So again, there's not a single word on here that is mine.
So Micah, you want your exact words on as an agenda item for us to vote on?
That's what I was just gonna ask, and be voted on. That's what you would like.
Not, because even though Mr. Sargent has taken the time to talk with you, you talked to JP, you've been to the last several board meetings, you want your exact wording that you have in this letter that you sent on the 12th that says non-enrolled students. You want that included in all extra and co-curricular activities.
Yeah, I mean.
So you want your wording, not somebody else's, even though that person responded with an agenda item that he believed answered your question, and that we have spent this time discussing what you brought up, just not voting exactly on your words, just so that I'm kind of clear about what.
Yeah, but the recommended action is right here on your agenda item is recommended adding the proposed attached policy to handbooks. Okay, the proposed attached policy is not.
So you want us to have, like Adam said, an action item that votes on your exact wording for the
Yes,
policy?
prior to our discussion tonight, yes, but you know, what you all said about some of these activities, you know, just by their nature, not being able to really have non-enrolled students participate. I think we can come together and find some middle ground on this, and really, again, look through the lens of both perspectives and come to something that includes non-enrolled students in some very logical activities here.
So do you want us to vote on your proposed, or do you want to come together in the middle?
I think, you know,
We can do.
what I'm trying to do is prevent you guys approving this because I don't like it.
So we can approve this, and you can work with Sargent and try to come together on what activities you believe could be non-enrolled students' participation. But as of right now, this is the list that we have to approve, or
not approve.
We not
It's up to
approve,
you guys right
that
now.
we are voting on right now
Yeah.
to categorize for this school year.
And if it's not approved, then it just goes.
I mean, under status quo where we just
Where we were
reset the last
Yeah.
few minutes of it.
You'll see it in July.
Yeah, you'll see it in July.
I believe this is a vital step in moving towards what you're hoping to become. Because
Trying
like
to
I said, we haven't had this detailed list, and as we've kind of got to tonight, that not all of these can be just opened up, so we can't just approve striking this verbiage from the policy and
Or adding
introducing
this verbiage.
these verbiage.
Yeah.
But this is a starting point, because now we have a list of where things fall under an identity for these clubs and these groups. Then begin the conversation of, well, what actually,
Constitutes a curricular and a school sponsored.
and is this the correct location for that?
So it sounds like
Yeah,
more
but-
work needs to be done.
but-
I know you all have committees. Maybe that would be
Um,
a spot for it.
But like what I gather just in the conversation here is, like, there should be a completely different heading for, I mean, as far as what I'm seeing, MCT is a week-long 2 week, 1 week. And it doesn't, I mean, and that, and it is a unique monster, in that term, that we don't have a heading for to be able to put that statement in, and that would be the follow-up conversation. Are there any of these other ones that would fall under the same kind of category as that aren't a year-long club sponsored by schools or certain classes or certain fundraising by enrolled students? Versus, but this is a step towards that, to find some sort of definition for the groups and the clubs that St. Ignatius Public Schools offers, K through 12.
Yeah, I think there's a couple ways, I'm already thinking about some other things. I mean, you could just, look at policy too, you could just not address it. I mean, it's been a status quo with this district for many years. The kind of problem that ignited this was calling out the specific activity that people aren't allowed to participate in,
Correct. And your policy, your proposed policy would have opened the door to absolutely everything. That's why.
I never asked for this list though.
But this is what had to happen to be able to get towards what can answer that.
I mean, I kind of feel like this is a game that both sides have just kind of showed their cards, and it needs more discussion. And maybe at this point, I just urge the board not to approve this. And I don't know how this works. Make a motion that we can continue to discuss it. I mean, you don't have to do it.
Well, I think what Jeff was saying earlier is that whatever we decide today, that between today and July, when those handbooks get approved, there is room and time for those kinds of discussions and conversations to be had. Now that we see, like JP said, see the list, then whatever decision's made tonight, it doesn't mean that your proposal's gone or that it's set in stone, right?
Right, so I guess on a positive note, look at it as a list of awareness. You just look at it like that, right? Like, what other possibilities can we do? The thing you need to keep in mind though, is everything that's listed on co-curricular is funded partially by the school, by enrolled students. So that's the kicker right there. We are taking care of our students that actually go to school here. So I get that you want to be a part of it. We're saying if you want to be a part of our school, be a part of our school, come to school. But as this is just a list, like I said, use it as an awareness list. Maybe there's a couple other ones in here that we can look at that aren't actually co-curricular, like in the classroom, but they are funded by the school. So if you're asking everybody to be a participant, then you're also asking us to stop funding the program. Because how do we fund that? How do we fund that when we're not getting money from the students? I know, but I'm just saying you need to look at it from our point of view. These programs are funded by the school, by students that are enrolled. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. I just want you to, so this isn't like a set in stone. This is kind of this list is what we pay for right now. That's what we're approving. That's what we already do. So like I said, when we do the handbooks in July, this, like Mary said, this is opportunity in the next 2 months, 3 months to go through, if you want to go through every one and say, I think we could do it this way. I think we could do this, because you know more about the homeschool side than I do. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that I know, because I don't, So I only get to see what we fund and how we treat our kids.
But that doesn't address the policy that excludes kids.
Which we discussed prior meeting, that policies is when we're in July. If you want and you push to get this on the agenda immediately, as opposed to reviewing it, we're giving you an opportunity to work on it and review it by July. But you insist on pushing this policy change immediately.
Yeah, I thought it was the right thing.
So even if we change it tonight, we can still change it in July when we go through the policy handbooks. Just like we're doing tonight, we're going to approve, well, it's been moved in second, it hasn't been approved yet.
I mean, there's been a lot discussed tonight, and I will admit some of my feelings have changed. But originally I felt like, my proposal was very clear and it would work by making a decision now.
So to read your revision was to non-enrolled students in private or homeschool have the right to participate in co-curricular and extracurricular activities in public school. The district will not restrict co-curricular or extracurricular participation of students in private school or homeschool based on their enrollment at the public school. That was in your letter on the 12th. Had that been up for an action item, I don't want to speak on behalf of the board, but my gut tells me that that would have been rejected due in part to our co-curricular list. But without that list, we really don't know what we're opening that up to either. So that's where we're trying to bring context to what is actually being asked. And it has challenged us to work through and move forward towards this. And now we have that. And I also hope that you can see why we, on our side, why we can't just open everything up to non-enrolled students.
This has been a good discussion.
Okay.
Anything else?
So this list will probably be looked at every single year annually, just to make sure something doesn't have to be added or.
Add or change.
It'll be reviewed during the handbooks.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
All right, if I go back through, I believe, I'll go
Mr.
for
Marchand.
Mr. Marchand.
What you got?
Just real quickly, and this is for general questions, for my clarification. I was embarrassed by my ignorance, but I said, I don't know if I can define extra and co-curricular a couple of months ago. And so I looked it up on Google. I'll save you the trouble. Extracurricular happens outside of the regular day. Co-curricular happens during the day. That's the Google definition, right? The simplest. But if I understand correctly, extracurricular is defined by MHSA law.
Yeah.
And co-curricular then is something that is enhanced by or enhances a classroom activity and is paid for by the district.
School sponsored.
School sponsored.
Yeah, somewhat by the district. There's still fundraising.
So I can't imagine the effort that goes into making that list. Would be a pain. But there's going to be other districts who are experiencing this, right? I'm guessing. In the general sense, what I'm asking is what makes their list of co-curriculars, and are other communities having similar problems with the MCT in particular, and how they are dealing with that? Because I mean, if there's only 40 spots, there's only 40 spots.
And you're really talking about a wide range of not only political, but ramifications of the law. For example, it was brought up, are there fewer students in school right now than there were 5 years ago? Yes. Did opening up extracurriculars for homeschool students help or hurt public education? If they had to be in the public schools, the argument could be made that they would be in public schools so they can participate in extracurriculars. I would view it as hindering public schools, making homeschools, private schools stronger by changing that law. It doesn't help us. How could it possibly help us? I mean, we're going to now allow homeschool students to participate. I mean, you can make that. I mean, we could toss this 16 million ways politically and everything else. Is it what is hurting public education and the movement of the current state of Montana? That's never been, there's up until private homeschool, it was a small percentage, where now, it's blowing up.
Yeah.
So are we let's keep feeding that fire? Are we going to, again, I don't want to get on a rant. I don't want to go down the whole personal view of this, but I can tell you that the question has to be raised, are we helping or hurting? You know, and at what point do we say, we're gonna stand up for public education? That's my job, and I'll
Yeah.
stand here and
No, I appreciate and understand Mr. Helser's argument, but I could not agree more strongly with Ms. Shellman. My question is, I guess, I wonder if there's a model or something that we could look at what other places are doing, because it's gotta be facing these same things. And Mr. Delaney mentioned, I'm not sure that the transition between MCT and Montana Shakespeare in the Parks would be that smooth, but somebody's doing something somewhere that is working, and I'd be, before we made a final decision, I would like to see us maybe investigate.
I can tell you that enrollment's down across the state of Montana in public schools.
Right.
It would be interesting to see what other districts are doing, but only on viewing and advisement. I wouldn't necessarily want to follow suit, but.
I don't think we can. I think, as Ms. Shulman says, we offer a lot of stuff, and I'm not sure we can see that on any other district. But there's got to be some sort of protocol that they're addressing it with, that we might at least be interested in looking at. Not just MCT in particular, but the whole thing.
I'll look into some other if there are other policies out there.
Go.
Yeah, I will. And I think that's and I think since things have changed, I think there's probably more and more of these popped up. I brought it up at the Western Mass. That's all Western Montana superintendents. I lead that group. This was not an item that I brought it up, is anybody else struggling with extracurricular, co-curricular? And it really was it was crickets. I didn't get a lot of feedback, but I can ask specifically for policy and see if there's more specific. Yeah. Sure.
Great, thank you.
Okay, we had a motion by Tony and a second by JP.
Okay. So we got a move and second.
As presented, by the
As
way.
presented. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, nays? Okay. And it'll be open for discussion come July when the handbooks, if we can get more information and move it accordingly or a different category, but there's more discussion to come for sure. Okay, now.
We are gonna go into a closed session.
I have determined that a quorum is present pursuant to 2-3-203 MCA. I have determined that the individual's right to privacy outweighs the public's right to know. I declare the meeting closed at 8:42.
What's sewer maintenance as usual? We're asking for 2 people over the summer, 1 grounds and 1 to help with moving and cleaning and all the work that goes into a summer. We've had 1 full-time normally and 1 part-time. Sometimes the groundskeeper will work 30 hours a week, whereas the person helping the crew works 40. We're asking for 2, as we normally do, 2 full-time positions, 30 to 40 hours a week over the summer.
No named person yet, just
Just
making the
approving the
funds available?
positions. Yep.
Okay, I'll make a motion to, sorry.
Yeah, great.
I'll make a motion to, recommended by Stephen Collin, to hire 2 maintenance people for hire 2 full-time positions, 30 to 40 hours a week.
I'll second that.
JP, gotcha.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
With your approval, we'll open it up, start taking.
Absolutely. 10.04, graduation requirements of 24-25.
No change. Same graduation requirements as expected for the past, I don't know how many years.
Decades.
A lot. But same graduation requirements for next year, 24-25.
I make a motion to approve the existing graduation requirements as listed in public content for 24-25.
A second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, athletic recommendations. We've got quite a list of, looks like all spring.
Yeah, it's been tough. So the ones we added that weren't on here earlier, we only have one track coach. We've actually gone through 3 since last Friday of possible assistant coaches, which I don't like starting the season without coaches. But we thought we had a hard yes this morning, and now it's a soft no. A hard no. Or there's no, a soft yes, sorry. A soft yes but we have a maybe from Brock Picard for the assistant. So I would recommend approving him. And then if he could do it, great. If not, we're still looking for an assistant track coach. Right now, Steve Picard and myself are filling in a couple nights a week until we can find somebody to be the assistant coach. So everything else except for we just added Dan McClure as a volunteer to baseball. Everything else is the same. Middle school tennis, Jody Delaney. Middle school track and field, Richard Martin, Jen Brander, volunteer Sid Brander. High school tennis, Cease Kaskela, Mimi Ashley. High school track, Logan Torgerson, Brock Picard. Max softball volunteers, Lee Smith, Reed Crawford, Jeff Evans, and baseball volunteer Dan McClure. Anything else? Find a darn track coach.
I'll make a motion to recommend the coaches and assistants and volunteers as listed.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Didn't we already approve Dan?
Dan, I thought so too.
Yeah, last month.
Meeting?
I think Dan was on last month.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Does it?
Now he's twice the volunteer.
Yes.
Yeah, now he has to be there twice as long.
It's paid twice.
No, it's in the same amount, right?
I think that he was.
Pay him double since it's twice.
That's the only one. The rest of them are
Okay, we moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
discussion.
No? Did you have something, Stan? Did you have
No.
a question? Okay. All those in favor? Nays?
I'm just abstaining.
Abstain.
Oh, okay, okay. Certified teacher renewal. A list of our certified teachers.
Yeah, so I think our next board meeting in April is the day after the approval. So I'm asking you to approve all of the teachers that we currently have on staff. If I miss somebody, I'm sure they will let me know. But we're approving all of the teachers we currently have for next year. They will get a letter of rehire.
Yeah. It's a
Acknowledge, yeah, welcome
Oh,
back.
yeah, you can turn it back on.
It's not a contract.
It's not a
No, it won't
contract.
be settled. It's a letter of intent to return. And they'll have
20 days.
20 days.
20 days to sign the letter of intent to return. But the list has been looked over a million times, and if we miss somebody, man, it's because they're hiding somewhere, so.
So 2 different dates for tenured, non-tenured? No. I'm not remembering that. But sometimes districts, if they're not settled, they will not offer to the non-tenured just so they can say it's an easier out.
We have no intention this year, or we don't have anybody that's on that. Happy to have them all.
Yeah.
And
Need them all.
We need them all. Which, yeah. Hopefully we'll have them all. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean,
But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right,
No, and if they were.
Point of practice versus,
If they were up, we would probably be doing, also list that as non-renewal for next year. At the same time, we would do this one. In the past, what we've done is, these will be all the ones we're recommending for renewal. And this is who we're recommending for non-renewal, and they would have already been notified, given letters and an opportunity to be here. For more public comment.
We have a motion.
a motion to recommend hiring the certified staff as this role.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Comprehensive Needs Assessment and Strategic Improvement Plan.
Yeah, this is 313 pages of fun reading.
Yeah.
We go through everyone.
We'll start on page 1 right now.
We'll get started.
Hey, Pete, you want to take page 1?
Let's move down the list.
Oh, lucky for you guys, my computer died.
Yeah.
So that's just, we need to recommend the approval. This was sent to OPI. I just want to make sure that the board has approved our strategic improvement plan. I don't know if it's necessary, but I wanted to be safe than sorry for having the board approve. It's basically our 5-year plan. It's all of the surveys. It's our annual goals. It is last year's end of the year reports. It's pretty much everything that we have available to us to make the decisions on goals, improvements. And like I said, I don't know if it's a requirement, but I wanted to have it on record that the board saw it, what was submitted. I wasn't able to submit the entire document. I was able to submit pieces of it, which really bummed me out because I really wanted to send them 13 times the 313 pages, but they didn't allow me to do that. So it was sent, and it has not been approved yet, but I want to make sure I covered bases.
I'll make the motion to recommend the approval of the comprehensive needs assessment and strategic improvement plan for accreditation standards.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, got a list of employment. Number 1, Miss Valiente.
Homeschool coordinator, part of this will be through homeless grant, and part of it will be through impact aid or through our general budget.
Like added on, or that's the total?
That would be the most.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't, that's the most that she can.
Whatever pot it falls in, we'll do.
Same as last.
Yeah, it's same as all contracts. If they flow through general fund or grants, if there's a grant for them, and then whatever, it just goes down the list.
And partially, this one is grant.
Yeah.
So did her job, it's the same job title, right? Same thing.
Same
did, or
position
add
she
to
did
it?
this year.
Yeah, we paid it out of ESSER
Yeah.
not last year, but not this year.
Yeah. The year
The
before
first
we
year out
did
of
it.
retirement.
Well, the reason I'm asking, I mean, I think she's very vital to what we're doing here. She's a great asset, but I'm just questioning the jump in salary. How do we justify
That's the
that
same amount she made
as
last year.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, I don't think the dollar.
That's not what was listed on last year's board.
30.5.
No, I had a different number, so
Oh, you-
that's why I'm just checking.
I think we increased. It
We
was
increased,
the
I mean,
position
I'm
was
going by the
approved.
original. In the same, it was approved in March. That's why I was trying to go back.
Yeah, I think we increased her. She could make more, so we increased the time to
Somewhere in a
0.5.
different month.
Yeah, but it's actually, it's not, if you look at 0.5, I don't, did we do 0.5 last
So
year?
last year was.
I believe so. That's what I mean. I thought
was
the
at
version was-
22,390.
That's what I saw. And
That was what last year's amount was in the board.
So yeah, it would be an increase, and she could make more
but we increased that sometime in the year.
Yeah. for more time for her.
Because it's the employee, not the employer's responsibility to meet the retirement. You can only earn so much when you're retired, is that
Yeah.
your statement?
Yeah, hers went up from what we thought was 23.9. She could probably make more now. And I don't know what it was increased last year during the year for more time, but
We managed what she could make as a retiree to that threshold.
Gotcha. Good. Okay, we got a motion for Ms. Humphrey.
I'll make the motion to recommend Valerie Humphrey for 0.5 homeschool coordinator and special ed consultant for the 24-25 school year, contract amount $30,000.
I'll second.
Maybe moving second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Okay, employment number 2. Looks like we got Miss Teresa Johnson as our school nurse.
This is another one I need to visit with Teresa, about part-time. I know she was not interested in full-time, but we're recommending hiring Teresa Johnson as part-time school nurse. I think last year we approved 42 days, and this year we're asking for 52. We added some additional days that were needed for records. It was a 2-week period. She needed to get things caught up that were not caught up from the previous records. So we added 10 more days, and I want to at least guarantee part-time nurse, if possible, to get Teresa back next year. But if approved, we'll visit with her and see, if she's willing to do that. If we have to come back, we will. But I want to get her at least what we offered this year again next year, if possible. And we haven't heard anything from Logan Health. Still hoping that we could get part-time Logan Health. I've recommended Teresa to Logan Health as a nurse numerous times, and I've heard nothing from Logan Health other than we're still waiting on the vehicle. I'm kind of giving up on Logan Health, to be honest. I don't know what else Rusty Cash.
Trust a guy named Rusty Cash.
They're reputable. I mean, Logan Health's reputable, but I don't get why they just ghosted us. Charlot's asking them, we're asking them, we're taking turns asking them, and we keep getting, the chassis, this, we're still waiting on the car, we're still without the car, the vehicle, we're waiting on this, we're waiting on that, it's like, I got people that want to know. We've got positions that are in need of knowing whether they have employment. We need to know these things, but it's basically don't know what to tell you because we don't have the vehicle to provide you what we promised.
So if they came in and actually hired her, would we readdress this, or would we keep her as our own?
We would still be part-time, but we probably wouldn't have to do as many days. I think she would probably agree to fewer days, maybe 1 day a week, because she'd already be working with Logan Health. Between those two, it'd be part-time, but yeah, it would have helped us. It would have helped us help her, but like I said, they've really been just.
Yeah, that's a little disheartening.
It is.
Wasn't she Teresa Olson last year?
There's a Mrs. Walker in the.
Or yeah.
And
Just
public
remember
content
that.
is what you
And
want.
we're like, Teresa Johnson. I believe that's what her contract says, is Teresa Johnson.
Okay, so we have a motion for Ms. Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to recommend the hiring of Teresa Johnson as a part-time school nurse position, 2 days a year, $13,500.
I'll second that.
Moving second, any discussion? All those in favor?
And I would correct that to Teresa Walker.
Okay,
Excuse me. Down below it says Miss Walker.
Okay.
I think
I'll fix that in the minutes, guys.
It should be Teresa Walker.
I remember that because we had to explain who she was.
Sorry. That was my bad.
Next employment, we have a elementary first grade for the rest of the year.
Yeah, so we had a teacher resign last week, elementary teacher, and we're recommending basically the teacher that's leaving will not cost us any more money. There's no leave. She resigned. We owe her nothing. So whatever we would have paid the teacher that was there, we will now pay Maggie Cassidy, if approved by the board, for the rest of this year. Pending no in-house applicants, because we wanted to get this into this board meeting. I think we're into like 2 or 3 more days of in-house. And once that, if no one else applies, we're recommending hire, but we have to, because of our MOU, we want to make sure we're legal in terms of it. I did visit with the union president, and she is okay with us moving forward with this.
She's willing to start immediately?
Yes.
Cool. I would make a motion to recommend hiring elementary teacher Maggie Cassidy MAO-2 for the rest of the school year pending and no in-house applications after 5 days.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those-
Recent graduate, is that our former teacher?
Sorry, say that again.
Was has she taught some before? Or is this
First year teaching.
First year.
She
Okay.
just graduated. She's been doing long-term sub jobs down in Missoula. She graduated in like the fall, where the school year had already started.
Any more discussion?
And it will be opened up. I mean, so it's not.
Yeah, it's not for sure.
This is the rest of the year.
All those in favor?
Okay.
Okay, next employment for hiring maintenance staff, Charles Garcia.
Recommend the hiring of maintenance staff Charles Garcia, lane 1, step 0. Has worked cutting Christmas tree in last few years, Plains area, and now is here. And the only applicant that we've had, and we've gone without for probably, I don't know, 3 weeks. We need to get someone started, and he's able and willing.
So he would start on approval?
Is that?
He would start on approval? Is that what you're saying?
No, he started.
He's already
He's a sub.
Oh, he's already.
Subbing.
Oh,
Yeah, he's a
gotcha.
sub until
okay.
tonight. He'll be officially.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we put him to work like last Friday.
Okay.
So it was like,
Well, that's what I thought. I thought maybe I'm looking for a different guy. So,
No.
okay.
To make the motion to recommend hiring maintenance staff Charles Garcia.
No second.
Okay, move seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
shouldn't say we hired him. We put him to work last
Work
Friday as a
over.
sub.
When he showed up. Okay, next employment, Miss Sydney Brandon for substitute employee.
Yep.
Substitute employee different than substitute teacher.
Just a substitute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Recommend hiring Sydney Brander for substitute.
Second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Christina put that one in there.
It's like, there's something.
She's not a full-time
Full user ad.
substitute. She's just working. She's a substitute.
All right, next agenda item is approve the out-of-district request for the student listed in executive content.
Can you see it? So you know who it is?
You gotta read that. Yeah.
Did you see it?
Yeah.
My only question was, this is at a district, would fall within that policy that we just approved for.
Yeah, we have to accept them either way.
Okay.
I mean, they're applying, but they're actually applying for this year, so it really doesn't. For this year, it applies that you're approving. For next year, it wouldn't matter. I mean, as soon as they fill out the paperwork, they're gonna be in next year. When they fill it out by June, they'll fill it out again for next year. You're approving the remainder of this
For the
year.
remainder of this.
I make the motion to approve the out-of-district request for the student listed in executive content.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, moves us on to the principal's annual question and answers. I've determined that the quorum is present pursuant to 2-3-203 MCA. I've determined that the individual's right to privacy outweighs the public's right to know, and I declare the meeting closed at 9:36.
Should you want to waive your right, you can do so now. Close it up.
Close it.
Okay. Okay.
So we're on to 10.15. Motion.
I make the motion to recommend the renewal of Chantel Moore as principal MA step 2.
No second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All
Only
those in
thing they
favor?
know, sorry, they would like to know if they get 3 personal days per year. Can they accumulate their 3 for a total of 6 over 2 years, like the teachers? Teachers get 3 every year, and they can accumulate up to 6 over 2 years, but no more than 6. So you can't carry more than 6 years, but you could take no personal leave during 1 year and take 6 days the second year. If you wanted to go on a vacation or something to that. It's probably normally 1 or 2 days that they would carry over and have 4 or 5, but that was a request from the administrators, if they could do that. Teachers do that. I see no reason. I mean, I think it's fairly relative in terms of you save them up to take a trip or need them for something. You can utilize them and build up to 6. Very many years you're not going to use 1 or 2 days anyway, but that came up as a request. And if no one's opposed, I would add that to the action to add 3, to add up to, yeah,
Accumulate to 6.
Okay. Accumulate.
So
Same as the teachers.
on the 3rd year, if you didn't take any, did you just cash those 3 days out?
Well, then you
6?
just use them.
Or do you lose them?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what happens with personal. So right
Okay.
now, like currently, if they take 2 and they have 1 left, they lose it, they start the next year over.
Gotcha.
So you carry that up to a total of 6.
And they come to you to give them okay, so you could cover if need be, is that kind of how it works?
Or say no.
Yeah.
Do I need to redo that?
Yeah, because Mary, I want
Would you
you,
please?
I want you to go back because I would like to have the commensurate language.
Oh, at first I didn't have that in there.
Yeah,
Did you just type it in there?
it was about an hour ago.
Oh, okay.
Because I
guess
talked with
finally
him, we
clicked
didn't
on it.
have that, and that was something that had been overlooked, so.
Okay, I recommend the renewal of Chantel Moore, principal, MA Step 2 for the 24-25 school year as per salary schedule, and any commensurate equivalent to certified negotiation outcomes with the addition of the
Accumulation.
accumulation of 6 sick days or personal days over 2 years.
Okay,
And I will still second that.
Is that worded correctly?
that is what I
Okay.
want.
That's close. No.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I
All those-
just, the adding of the, say that word again.
Commensurate.
Yeah, and it's, well, I'm fine, cause we did it, but
You didn't. like the
I
process.
just don't like,
Yeah, I
and
got
I
you.
visited with some people about it, and, cause when it all comes down to it, I didn't know how SIFT liked, because they're are they, the teachers could get a little more if all the administrators weren't getting the same amount, or does that ever come up?
It really,
Maybe I'm not supposed to
Just
talk about
about.
negotiations.
no,
No,
everybody does it.
Makes it
and it's-
easier. and
Makes it
fairer.
easier. I mean, because we have, right now, we have, the administrators, you've got the head of maintenance, the kitchen, who else? Tech. I mean, there's probably Adam, he's added it to his. I mean, there's a lot of people that have added that.
So all of them are kind of waiting to
We
see.
kind of wait and
Right.
see historically, so financially, historically, in the past, you'd have principals come in and say, well, I want a 5%, or they would go opposite of the union negotiations, and then there could create some animosity. What this does is say, okay, we understand budgeting wise that this is what you're gonna ask for. Your administrators are going to follow suit and kind of keep that on the same page. And so that doesn't create that difference in.
Yeah, and my only concern is and I asked that night, is it of the base or is it of their actual salary? And it was of their actual salary. So when the administrators are getting quite a bit more, the raise is quite a bit more.
It's of the base, but it does filter down, right? So if I have a 14-step lane, I'll add 2% to the base, but then it filters down to the bottom of their salary scale. So it does increase the base salary. Say there's a $50,000 teacher, we give them a 2% raise, it's $50,125. And then each step has a percentage to it as well. So at the bottom, where if you're on step 14, that 2% would filter down to what their current salary is also. But it keeps it in line. It doesn't keep the starting salary static. It grows the starting salary of the position with every.
So it'd be a fair statement to say people with larger salaries will be getting a
You
larger
could say
raise.
that, yes, it compounds that way. It's not a direct 3%. It's or 2% or whatever's being offered. It's a 2% on the base, and then it compounds down to what your salary is. It usually doesn't come across as a direct 2%, but it's within decimals of it.
I just
Technically,
would
that's
like
how,
that
that's how it rolls, yeah.
starting out teacher to get a bigger raise than the superintendent in my, but
Right,
we're on this commensurate roll.
right. And I think that's why it's designed that way, so that the bases do continue to increase versus having.
And then you
just
gotta
a-
look at the summative of all these.
Yep.
Commensurative raises when you're figuring out the budget.
I do.
Yeah, you do.
I
Probably got a little from AI.
And the superintendent started at 16 in this district, so just, they're not, you brought up my.
Yeah, just being a tall.
No, I'm
Yeah,
just
yes.
saying, there was a time and a place where I was at the very bottom.
16 first
I
year.
don't remember.
No, probably more than that.
It was close.
Yeah.
I could look it up, but I bet it was close.
So, yeah, I think that's designed to keep that base growing while having that roll down. And then if you're at the end of your steps, you're only gonna get the increase that's negotiated versus getting the step increase. So, understood though, it is built into the budget process.
Yeah. I just,
Understood.
Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, opposed? Okay. 10.116, recommend the renewal of Mr. Hendrickson.
I make the motion to recommend the renewal of Sean Hendrickson, MA Step 14, 24-25 school year as per salary schedule and any commensurate equivalent to certified negotiation outcomes, including up to 6 personal days over a 2-year period.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Reports enrollment.
Ooh, 129, 132, pretty close. High school, pretty close. Middle school, elementary down. Getting better. Yeah, enrollment.
Okay, pretty close. We'll move on to administration and leadership. AD, is he still here?
Yep.
Stu?
Stu, you got anything to add to your report?
Other than just thank you for the help the last month of February for districts and divisionals, and a lot of good feedback about having district tournament here for basketball, and of course feedback and having us not be a partial host for it. So just about recovered physically from it. It was a long 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So
I was at 39 games and
yeah, it was 38 games.
yes, 38 games in 5 days. That's a lot.
Actually 39. Yeah, coach.
Yeah.
did you have a report? Did you list participants of the spring sports?
I didn't, there's no AD report.
No, it's highlighted, but there's no report.
Yeah.
And then Nesper, you're not highlighted, but you have a report. You have anything to add?
Oh, yeah, here we go. Okay, we'll go quick.
We're just amazed you're still here.
Where am I gonna go? Starlink, in between writing this report and now, I discovered that because Blackfoot has been so consistent and reliable, I didn't realize that Starlink was down for a while. So I did a little troubleshooting and have included that in my routine maintenance protocols. I got the dish RMA'd and a new one up and running already. We're back up and running with Starlink as our backup should we ever need it. But again, Blackfoot has been super reliable. Quarterly report cards are coming out soon. We stopped doing paper midterm reports. I haven't talked to Sarge yet, but I assume that has reduced our mailings budget somewhat. I believe the plan is to continue to move in that direction and start delivering that stuff digitally as much as possible to reduce the amount that we spend on envelopes and postage and that sort of thing. Racina and I will be attending a user group for Infinite Campus stuff continuing to get better at doing that. That's in April. That's down in Missoula. New stuff in Google. The login page is changing. It's just a new look, same functionality, but people freak out about that. So I'm on watch for helping people through that. I've re-enabled outside sharing in Google Drive. We had some issues where people wanted to share documents and files and things with outside organizations. We're unable to. I've enabled that. I have attended a couple of webinars, Google education stuff over the last month, and I'm continuing to do so. It's a big series. A lot of it deals with AI stuff, like Sarge was talking about earlier. There's a possibility I might be looking at bringing to administration the possibility of maybe upgrading what we do with our Google Workspace, possibly to a paid tier. There are some tools that are available to us with not a lot of money. I haven't put together a proposal for that, but if that comes around, that will end up on your desk, Sarge, first. Land school is going well. I have one issue in one classroom that I haven't been able to figure out yet, but we're working on that. NFHS, the Pixelot and Huddle cameras, they replaced the camera in the new gym again. I know everybody knows we had problems with the games over the tournament. They seem to think that the replacing the camera is going to fix the problem. I disagree. They tell me there's also a software fix coming that they're going to push to our machines. We'll see. I'm not super impressed with NFHS or Pixelot at this moment, but we are, well, the NHSA is under contract, so if we're going to broadcast games, we have to do it with Pixelot. If we're going to broadcast games, postseason games at all, we have to do it with only NFHS and Pixelot. That's my understanding of the.
I think that they're trying to make a move towards Huddle, but it hasn't happened yet.
I've heard both. I've heard there's a lot of people that would like to go to Huddle. I've heard there's sort of a concerted effort by some folks to stay with NFHS. So we'll see how that goes. I don't get much say in that, apparently. Thrill sharing rooms going well. We've done a lot of that stuff. We had a rep here in district last week. Had a lot of good conversations with him, figured some stuff out. I'm implementing rooms for softball, sort of as a testing ground for all of our sports communication. I know that was a big reason to start using rooms. Still working to get all of our parents and guardians connected. Heavens. We'll get there. Turn on the phone. New production machines are up and running. The copiers, they're working really well. Still figured out some of the features and things that these things can do is great. So we're slowly getting up to 100% on these machines. Scanning to email, a couple other things are not quite online yet, but we're working on it. But everyday, day-to-day copying and printing is working great. We're doing good there. I've been looking into sort of what happens if and when our smart boards. This again is sort of part of that update and maintenance protocols. If and when our smart boards start reaching end of life, what do we do after that? Fortunately, we don't have to worry about that right now. They're all still working. Staff machines, we are covered. We don't have any spares currently, but we're covered for now. Hopefully, we can ride it out to the end of the year and not have to buy any one of those. Kitchen cafeteria is still on my list for getting updated. Again, if we can get through the year and then over the summer get those updated, that would be great. And I think that's it. Any questions for me? Great. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you. Middle school, high school, Mr. Hendrickson, you got anything to add to your report?
I don't. First time ever.
Well, all right. Miss Moore, do you have anything to add to your report?
I do not.
Well, Mr. Sargent, Oh.
I had a quick question for Stuart.
Okay, yep.
The numbers for the co-op, did Arlie add some good numbers to bring it up? And then
For baseball?
yeah, tennis and softball, how the numbers,
We have
or tennis and track?
8 for baseball, is that right?
Yeah, maybe 7, kind of looking like that, probably for baseball.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Good numbers.
22, 23 kids.
Right now, we're about 23, probably.
That's good numbers.
Yeah.
What do we have Nesper for Marley?
We had 3, 1 dropped, yesterday, we got 2 from our lead.
All right, we adjourn 10:48.
All right, guys. You guys have been overtime for that one.
We'll get next license.
Double volunteers.
Oh,
you need these back, don't you, Jason?
Yeah. Commensurate was a Bob word, by the way. That started in the Bob Lewandowski.